Let me ask you something. Have you ever opened a bag of chips, told yourself you'd only have a few, and then looked down 20 minutes later to find the entire bag empty? Or cracked open a soda just to have a sip, and somehow finished the whole can before you even realized it? Here's the part that's going to bother you. That wasn't weakness. That wasn't a lack of willpower. That was science. Very deliberate, very calculated, very expensive science, working exactly as designed. Every single one of those flavors, those textures, those smells, they were engineered in a lab by some of the most brilliant food scientists in the world. And their entire job, the reason they get paid millions of dollars, is to figure out the exact combination of ingredients that makes it nearly impossible for your brain to say stop. There's even a name for it. It's called the Bliss Point. And once you understand what it is, how it works, and why billion-dollar corporations have built their entire empires around it, you will never look at a snack the same way again. So stay with us, because what I'm about to show you is not a conspiracy theory. It's not fear-mongering. It's documented. It's been studied. It's been admitted to by insiders. And it explains why so many of us feel like we're in a constant losing battle against food. Let's pull back the curtain. Chapter 1. What is the Bliss Point, and who invented it? The term Bliss Point sounds almost poetic, right? Almost innocent. But its origins are anything but. The concept was first popularized by a scientist named Howard Moskowitz. Now, Moskowitz is not some shadowy villain. He's actually a Harvard-trained psychophysicist, which is a fancy way of saying he studied how the human mind perceives physical sensations. But in the 1970s, he started applying his research to something far more commercially interesting: food. Moskowitz was hired by the US Army, of all places, to solve a specific problem. Soldiers on long deployments were getting sick of eating the same rations over and over. They'd lose their appetite entirely, even when they were genuinely hungry. This is a well-documented phenomenon called sensory-specific satiety. Basically, your brain gets bored of a flavor and tells you to stop eating, even if your body still needs fuel. Moskowitz's job was to figure out how to make food that soldiers would keep eating regardless. And what he discovered during that research changed the entire food industry forever. He found that for virtually every flavor, whether it's sweetness, saltiness, or richness, there is a precise point on a curve where human pleasure is maximized. Too little of a flavor, and people are unsatisfied. Too much, and they become overwhelmed and actually start to dislike it. But right in the middle, at the peak of that curve, is a sweet spot where pleasure is so high and satisfaction is so low that the brain just keeps wanting more. That peak is the bliss point. After his work with the Army, Moskowitz took his findings into the private sector, and companies lined up around the block. He worked with Pepsi, Campbell's Soup, Vlasic Pickles, and dozens of other major food brands. His work wasn't just about making food taste good. It was about making food taste irresistible in a very specific neurological way. And the brilliant, or disturbing depending on how you look at it, thing about the bliss point is that it's not about maximizing flavor. It's actually about finding the level of flavor that maximizes craving. There's a difference. Too much sweetness and you feel satisfied and stop. But just the right amount of sweetness hits your reward system and leaves your brain wanting another bite. And another. And another. Moskowitz once described his job as mapping the mind of the consumer. And that map, it turned out, was worth billions. Chapter 2. The 3 pillars of food addiction: sugar, salt, and fat. Now that we understand what the bliss point is, let's talk about the 3 ingredients that food scientists manipulate to hit it. And you already know what they are, because they're everywhere: sugar, salt, fat. These 3 ingredients have been part of the human diet since the beginning of our existence. And our brains are wired, at a deep evolutionary level, to crave them. Here's why. For most of human history, sugar was incredibly rare. It existed naturally in fruit and honey, but you couldn't just walk into a store and buy a bag of it. So our brains evolved to treat sweetness as a signal. This is a source of fast energy, and it's not easy to find, so eat as much of it as you can right now. That's why your brain releases dopamine when you eat something sweet. Dopamine is the brain's reward chemical, the same one involved in the highs of gambling, falling in love, or even certain drugs. Sugar triggers it, every single time. Salt is similar. Sodium is an essential mineral that your body cannot produce on its own. You have to get it from food. So once again, your brain evolved to seek it out and reward you heavily when you find it. Salt also does something remarkable to flavor. It suppresses bitterness, enhances sweetness, and makes every other taste more vivid and appealing. It's not just a flavor, it's a flavor amplifier. Fat is the most calorie-dense macronutrient there is. 9 calories per gram compared to 4 for protein or carbohydrates. For a species that spent millions of years not knowing when the next meal was coming, fat was survival. Your brain treats it accordingly, releasing a cascade of feel-good chemicals when you consume it. Fat also changes the texture of food in ways that are deeply pleasurable. Creaminess, richness, that satisfying coating sensation in your mouth. Now, here's the thing. None of these ingredients on their own is designed to hit the bliss point. The magic and the danger happens when food scientists combine them in precise ratios. Studies have shown that when sugar and fat are combined in the right proportions, the dopamine response is significantly stronger than either one alone. Add salt into that mix, and the effect amplifies even further. It's not additive, it's multiplicative. These ingredients work together to create a neurological response that your brain simply isn't equipped to resist. And the food industry knows this. They have known this for decades. And they have spent billions of dollars perfecting the exact ratios that keep you in that loop of craving, eating, never quite feeling satisfied, always reaching for more. Chapter 3. Inside the Lab. How Food Scientists Engineer Craving. Most people imagine that food is made in kitchens, and some of it still is. But the products that dominate the snack food aisle, the ones you can't stop eating, are made in places that look a lot more like pharmaceutical research facilities than restaurants. These are called sensory science labs, and what happens inside them is genuinely fascinating and a little unsettling. Here's how it works. A food company wants to develop a new product, say a new flavor of potato chips. They don't just throw together some ingredients and taste test it. They bring in a team of food scientists, flavor chemists, and sensory analysts. They run what are called triangle tests and hedonic scaling experiments, where they present dozens of slightly different versions of the same product to panels of taste testers, sometimes hundreds of people, and measure the neurological and emotional responses in precise detail. Not just did you like it, but how much did you want to keep eating? How quickly did the pleasure fade? Did you feel satisfied, or did you feel like you wanted another bite? How long did the flavor linger? Did you experience a reach? Meaning, did your hand automatically move toward the bag again without you consciously deciding to? All of that data gets fed back into the formulation. Adjust the salt by 0.3%. Increase the fat content by 1.2%. Try a different emulsifier to change the mouthfeel. Run it again, and again, and again, until the product hits that sweet spot, until the reach rate is high and the satisfaction rate stays deliberately low. One former Frito-Lay scientist described it this way. The goal is to create what they called vanishing caloric density. This is the phenomenon where certain snacks, like cheese puffs or certain crackers, melt or dissolve in your mouth so quickly that your brain doesn't register a sensation of fullness. You keep eating because, as far as your brain is concerned, you haven't really eaten anything yet. The calories are real. The fullness signal never arrives. There's also something called the cephalic phase response. Before you even take a bite of food, your body starts preparing. Saliva production increases. Stomach acid is released. Insulin begins to rise. And food companies have learned to optimize for this too, engineering smells, sounds, and even the visual appearance of food to trigger those anticipatory responses and heighten the craving before consumption even begins. That pop when you open a can, the crinkle of a chip bag, the bright orange color of a cheese puff, none of that is accidental. Every sensory detail has been studied, refined, and deployed with the specific purpose of triggering your brain's reward system before you've taken a single bite. Chapter 4. The Confessions. What the Insiders Actually Said. Sometimes the most revealing things come not from scientific studies, but from the people who were inside the machine and eventually felt compelled to talk about what they saw. The most explosive account came from journalist Michael Moss, who in 2013 published a book called Salt, Sugar, Fat: How the Food Giants Hooked Us. Moss spent 4 years investigating the food industry, interviewing hundreds of scientists, executives, and researchers. And what he uncovered was a systematic, industry-wide effort to engineer addiction, and the internal conflicts that many people inside these companies felt about what they were doing. One of the most striking figures in his book was Jeffrey Dunn, a former president of Coca-Cola's North America division. Dunn was one of the most powerful people in the beverage world, and then, after a visit to Brazil, where he saw how aggressively Coca-Cola was marketing sugary drinks to impoverished communities with very limited access to clean water, something shifted in him. He eventually left the company and became an outspoken critic of exactly the tactics he had once championed. Moss also documented a famous meeting in 1999, April 8th to be specific, where the CEOs of the 11 largest food companies in America gathered in Minneapolis. The subject of the meeting was a growing public health crisis, skyrocketing rates of obesity, diabetes, and hypertension, all linked to the kinds of highly processed, hyper-palatable foods these companies were producing. One of the attendees, James Benke, a scientist from Pillsbury, gave a presentation essentially laying out the data. The science was clear. These products were making people sick. The question on the table was whether the industry would voluntarily begin reformulating products to reduce sugar, salt, and fat. One by one, the CEOs pushed back. One executive reportedly said the company couldn't afford to reformulate, that consumers would simply switch to a competitor's product that still had the full formula. The meeting ended without any commitments. The Bliss Points stayed intact, and the public health crisis continued to grow. These weren't villains twirling mustaches. Many of them were genuinely conflicted. But the logic of the market, the pressure to hit quarterly targets, to keep growing, to outperform competitors, consistently won out over public health concerns. That dynamic hasn't changed. In many ways, it's gotten more sophisticated. Chapter 5. Your Brain on Ultra-Processed Food: The Neuroscience of Craving. Let's go even deeper, because this isn't just about psychology or corporate strategy. There is genuine, hard neuroscience happening inside your brain every time you eat one of these products. And understanding it doesn't just explain why you can't stop eating chips. It helps you understand why this is so much harder to resist than anyone wants to admit. The human brain has a reward circuit, a network of structures and chemical pathways that evolved to motivate us to seek out things that are essential for survival and reproduction. Food, water, warmth, social connection. When you obtain those things, your brain releases dopamine, which creates a feeling of pleasure and reinforces the behavior that led to it. This is the foundation of all motivation and habit formation. Here's the problem. The dopamine system doesn't respond to absolute levels of pleasure. It responds to spikes. Rapid, intense bursts of stimulation. And ultra-processed foods, engineered specifically to hit the bliss point, create dopamine spikes that are significantly sharper and faster than anything found in nature. When you eat a banana, which is genuinely sweet, your blood sugar rises gradually, your brain receives a modest dopamine signal, and your body's satiety hormones catch up relatively quickly. You feel satisfied. The craving subsides. When you eat an ultra-processed food engineered to hit the bliss point, the response is very different. The sugar is typically refined and hits the bloodstream rapidly. The fat amplifies the pleasure signal. The salt sharpens the flavor and extends the craving. The result is a dopamine spike that is fast, intense, and short. It drops off quickly, leaving you below your baseline in a brief but real neurological trough. And from that trough, your brain starts sending signals to eat again. Now. Over time, and this is the truly serious part, repeated exposure to these kinds of sharp dopamine spikes can actually alter the brain's reward circuitry. The receptors involved in processing dopamine become desensitized through a process called downregulation, This means you need more stimulation to get the same level of pleasure. It's the same mechanism that underlies tolerance in addiction. Researchers at the University of Michigan have conducted studies identifying specific foods that score highest on what they call addictive eating scales. The top-scoring foods? Consistently, things like pizza, chocolate, chips, cookies, and ice cream, all of which are engineered combinations of sugar, fat, and salt. Notably, foods lower in processing, like nuts, rice, salmon, and vegetables, scored much lower on addictive eating measures, even though many of them are nutrient-dense and genuinely pleasurable to eat. The food isn't just exploiting your preferences, it is literally changing the hardware in your brain. Chapter 6. The Targeting Problem. Who bears the heaviest burden? If the Bliss Point affected everyone equally, that would be troubling enough. But the reality is considerably more complicated and more unjust than that. Because the food industry doesn't market its most aggressively engineered products equally, it targets specific communities, specific age groups, and specific economic circumstances with remarkable precision. Children are the most obvious and most documented target. Multiple internal documents from major food companies, obtained through litigation and investigative reporting over the years, have shown that taste preferences and brand loyalties established in childhood tend to be remarkably durable throughout a person's life. If you get someone hooked on your product at age 7, the statistics suggest you'll have a customer for decades. This is why food companies spend billions of dollars annually on marketing directed at children, in schools, on streaming platforms, through influencer partnerships, through toys and games tied to food brands. And the products being marketed to children are, without exception, the most highly engineered, Bliss Point optimized items in the entire portfolio. Cereals with cartoon characters on the box, snacks in bold, bright packaging, beverages colored in ways that don't exist in nature, in flavors that are chemically calibrated to appeal specifically to developing palates. Children's brains are also neurologically more susceptible to dopamine-based reward mechanisms. Their prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain responsible for impulse control and long-term decision-making, doesn't fully develop until the mid-20s. So you're targeting the most vulnerable neurological window with the most potent products. The combination is not coincidental. Lower-income communities are also disproportionately targeted. In what public health researchers call food deserts, areas where access to fresh, whole food is limited or prohibitively expensive, ultra-processed food often becomes the default option. It's cheap, calorie-dense, shelf-stable, and engineered to be satisfying enough in the short term to keep people coming back. The companies that make these products know exactly where they sell most, and they price and distribute accordingly. There is something deeply uncomfortable about a system in which the communities with the fewest resources, the most stress, and the least access to alternatives are simultaneously the most heavily marketed to with the most addictive products. And yet, that is precisely the landscape that exists. Chapter 7. The Natural and Healthy Illusion. How rebranding keeps the formula intact. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but I don't eat chips and soda all day. I read labels, I buy the organic version. I choose the low-sugar option or the baked, not fried variety. Surely those products are different? In some cases, yes. But in many cases, and this is where the story gets particularly slippery, the Bliss Point formula hasn't changed at all. Only the packaging has. Over the past 2 decades, in response to growing public awareness about processed food and its health effects, the food industry has invested massively in what marketers call the health halo. This is the practice of reformulating or rebranding products to appear healthier, without necessarily making them meaningfully better, and often while keeping the core addictive formula intact. Take reduced fat products. When fat is removed from a processed food, the texture, the richness, and the overall palatability goes down. So what do food scientists do? They compensate by adding more sugar, sometimes significantly more. The product might have fewer grams of fat per serving, but the overall Bliss Point engineering is still very much in place. The cravings don't diminish. In some studies, people actually eat more of the reduced fat version because the healthy label gives them psychological permission to consume more. The natural flavors designation is another example. When you see natural flavors on a food label, many people assume that means something wholesome: fruits, vegetables, herbs. But the FDA's definition of natural flavors is actually quite broad. It refers to flavoring compounds derived from natural source materials. But those compounds can be highly processed, chemically concentrated, and engineered to hit specific sensory targets. They're still manufactured in labs. They're still designed to maximize palatability. The natural label tells you about the source, not the mechanism of action. The craft snack movement, the better-for-you category, the organic chip brands, many of these operate on the exact same Bliss Point principles as their mainstream counterparts. The flavor science is often identical. The difference is the ingredient list reads a little cleaner and the price point is higher. None of this means you can't make better choices. You absolutely can. And whole, minimally processed foods genuinely do behave differently in your brain. But it does mean that navigating food marketing requires a level of skepticism that most people aren't equipped with, because the industry has invested enormous resources in making its products seem healthier than they are. Chapter 8: The Regulatory Vacuum. Why nobody stopped this. At this point, a reasonable person might ask, why is any of this legal? If food companies have documented evidence that their products are engineered to override satiety signals and create compulsive eating behaviors, how is that not a public health emergency with regulatory consequences? It's a fair question, and the answer is complicated, but not incomprehensible. The food industry in the United States, and in most of the world, operates in a regulatory environment that was never designed to address the kind of sophisticated behavioral engineering that exists today. When the FDA was established and food safety regulations were written, the primary concerns were contamination, spoilage, and mislabeling. Nobody in the 1930s was thinking about how the ratio of sugar to fat could be calibrated to suppress the satiety response. The framework wasn't built for this. As the science of food engineering advanced through the latter half of the 20th century, the regulatory environment didn't keep pace. And the reason it didn't keep pace is, in large part, because the food industry has historically been one of the most powerful lobbying forces in Washington. The budget for food industry lobbying in any given year runs into the hundreds of millions of dollars. It funds research, funds campaigns, funds positions in regulatory agencies through the revolving door, and consistently works to prevent any meaningful government intervention in product formulation. The Food and Drug Administration can regulate whether a food is safe, meaning it won't kill you acutely. But it has very limited authority to regulate whether a food is engineered to maximize cravings, suppress satiety, or alter neurological reward circuitry. These are not categories that fit neatly into existing food safety frameworks. There have been attempts to push back. In the early 2000s, the FDA, under the Bush administration, signaled potential action on trans fats, a battle that took over a decade to fully resolve. Efforts to regulate added sugar labeling have faced enormous industry pushback. Proposals to restrict food marketing to children have been gutted repeatedly by industry pressure. The pattern is consistent, and while individual countries have made more progress, the UK has implemented advertising restrictions on junk food. Several Latin American countries now require warning labels on ultra-processed products. These efforts remain fragmented and limited in scope compared to the scale of the industry. The result is a system in which the most powerful neuroscientific insights about human behavior are deployed in service of commercial profit, with very little meaningful oversight. It's not a conspiracy, it's just the way markets and regulations have evolved together, or failed to. Chapter 9. Can you fight back? The truth about reclaiming your palate. All right, we've been in some pretty heavy territory, and I want to be honest with you. There's no tidy bow to put on this. The system is what it is, and it isn't going to fundamentally change overnight. But there are real, evidence-backed things you can do, and they're not about willpower. They're about understanding the system well enough to work around it. The first thing to understand is that your palate is remarkably adaptable. Taste preferences are not fixed. They are conditioned, and they can be reconditioned. Research has shown that when people significantly reduce their intake of sugar, salt, and ultra-processed foods for even a period of a few weeks, their sensitivity to those flavors actually increases. The same amount of sweetness that felt underwhelming before starts to feel intensely sweet. A lightly salted dish that once seemed bland begins to taste satisfying. The reason is neurological. As you reduce the constant barrage of hyperpalatable stimuli, your dopamine receptors begin to recalibrate. Their downregulation reverses, at least partially, and natural flavors start to feel rewarding again. This doesn't happen overnight, and the first week or two can be genuinely difficult. Not because you're weak, but because your brain's reward circuitry is adjusting. Cravings can spike before they subside, but the people who push through that window consistently report that the other side feels genuinely different. Food tastes more vivid. Satiety signals work better. The compulsive reach for the chip bag starts to quiet down. The second thing is about environment design rather than willpower. Willpower is a limited resource that depletes throughout the day. It is a fundamentally unreliable defense against a product specifically engineered to circumvent it. What works much better is changing your environment so that the engineered products aren't within easy reach. You can't reach for what isn't there. This sounds simple, but the research on habit formation and food choice environments consistently shows that physical proximity is one of the biggest drivers of consumption, more than taste preference, more than hunger levels. The third thing is about label literacy. Genuinely understanding what you're reading, not just looking for words like natural or organic. Look at the ingredients list. If sugar, under any of its many names, high fructose corn syrup, dextrose, maltose, cane syrup, appears in the first 3 ingredients, you're looking at a Bliss Point product. If the list of ingredients is longer than roughly 5 to 7 items and contains names you can't immediately identify, that's usually a sign of significant processing. And finally, and this might be the most important thing, approach your relationship with food with curiosity rather than guilt. The system was specifically designed to make you crave things that aren't in your best interest, and then make you feel like your inability to resist is a personal failure. It isn't. Understanding that the Bliss Point is real, that it's engineered, and that it works on a neurological level that has nothing to do with your character or discipline, that reframing alone can change how you relate to these products. You're not weak. You were engineered. Closing. The label they don't put on the package. Here's what I want you to walk away with. The most addictive flavors in the world aren't accidents. They're not the result of some chef getting lucky in the kitchen. They are the product of decades of research, billions of dollars, and some of the most sophisticated applied neuroscience in history, all pointed at one goal: getting you to open the bag again. The Bliss Point is real. It's measurable. It's engineered, and it works on your brain through the same fundamental mechanisms as other compulsive behaviors. That's not hyperbole. That's what the science says. Now, knowing this doesn't mean you can never enjoy a bag of chips or a slice of pizza. Life is for living, and food is genuinely one of life's great pleasures. What knowing this does mean is that you can make choices from a place of awareness rather than manipulation. You can see the system for what it is, and you can decide, consciously, deliberately, how much of your eating you want to be on someone else's terms. The food industry has spent decades figuring out how your mind works. It seems only fair that you spend a few minutes learning the same thing. If this video made you think differently about something you eat every day, share it with someone who might feel the same way. And if you want to go even deeper on this topic, the psychology of eating, the neuroscience of habit, the history of how our food system got to where it is, subscribe and hit the bell, because we're just getting started. Until next time, stay curious, stay skeptical, and read the label.